So the Lakers just got Thiero. I think this could be huge for the Lakers. Thiero's size jumps out right away. At 6'6", 218 pounds, with a 7-foot wingspan and standing reach of 8 feet 8.5 inches, he's already bringing tools most wings would kill for. Add in a 36.5-inch vertical, and yeah, you're talking about a guy who's built like a tank and jumps like he's allergic to gravity. On the defense end, it's not just about how he looks, it's how he produces. 1.6 steals per game in just under 28 minutes says a lot, but when you pair that with a 3.4% steal rate and a defensive box plus minus of 4.7, it screams impact. That steal rate puts him in the 92nd percentile among forwards, which is elite territory. And it's not a one-trick pony deal either. He also averaged 0.7 blocks per game and posted a 2.9% block rate. For a wing, that's not just good, it's rare. His defensive rating of 99.2 is the kind of number that makes coaches foam at the mouth. It's tough to find guys who can defend 1 through 4, disrupt passing lanes, and rotate on the weak side, all without giving up space or fouling constantly. That's exactly where Thiero stands out. The Lakers ranked 20th in defensive efficiency last season, and honestly, they needed someone who could inject life into their perimeter defense. Thiero's toolkit fits right into that hole, like weirdly perfectly. Now let's talk about what he does when the ball's in his hands, or when it's being slammed into the rim. Offensively, Thiero finished the season shooting 54.5% from the field. That's solid on its own, but when you zoom in, it gets even better. He shot over 63% at the rim and threw down 45 dunks. That's no small number for a wing who isn't even the first option. And when the game got moving, he was lethal, almost 69% in transition. For a Lakers team that finished 6th in pace last season, that's big. They want to run. He wants to run. Match made in hardwood heaven, but yeah, there's a but. The half court is a different story. He hit just under 50% on layups and struggled even more against set defenses, where he managed just 47.1%. That's the part that makes you blink twice. And then you see the 3-point percentage, 25.6% from deep on less than 2 attempts per game. That's a problem. The unguarded threes were even worse, just 21.7%. And off the dribble, nothing, 0%. Not one went in. That's the kind of thing that messes with spacing. Nobody's begging for another non-shooter in that lineup. Even with all that, his true shooting percentage still landed at 60.5. That's thanks to how often he got to the line, 6.5 free throw attempts per game, and how much pressure he puts on the rim. He only made about 68% from the line, so that's another spot where there's room to grow. Still, drawing contact that often has value, even when the free throws are a bit shaky. Then there's the unicorn stat, the only other player besides Zion Williamson to hit the following numbers in a season: usage rate of 25% or higher, true shooting at or above 60%, assist percentage over 10, steal rate over 3.4, block rate over 2.9, defensive box plus minus over 3.5, and more than 40 dunks. That's not just rare, that's almost unheard of. It puts him in a category by himself, or with one other guy who happens to be built like a superhero. Per 36 minutes, Thiero's production scales up to 19.7 points, 7.6 rebounds, and 2.1 steals. That's the kind of all-around box score that makes your eyes widen a bit. And his offensive rebounding rate sits at 7.7%. For a wing, that's monstrous. You're talking about someone who crashes the boards like it's his job, which now it kind of is. The fit with the Lakers is where things get especially interesting. You pair him with shooters like Connect or Austin Reeves, and you're hiding his shooting weaknesses while unlocking everything else. Lineups with LeBron James at center open the floor, giving Thiero more room to cut, crash, and fly in transition. There's potential there to create chaos. In a good way, he's got the kind of energy role Jared Vanderbilt filled last season, but with more upside offensively. The raw tools are already better. He just needs refinement, especially when it comes to his 3-point shot and ball handling. Right now, his projected NBA 3-point percentage is just a hair above 32%, and his assist to turnover ratio is only 1.11. Not terrible, but not great either. The Lakers have a track record with wings like this. Phil Handy and the development staff have taken athletic but raw prospects and sharpened them up. Talon Horton-Tucker is one of those guys. There's reason to believe they'll do the same with Thiero. They've done it before, and they've done it with less to work with. The trade to get Thiero was sneaky. They picked him up with the 36th pick, which originally belonged to Brooklyn. That means they're not on the hook for first-round money. Instead, they're saving over $2 million, money that matters when you're bumping into tax implications. That's real flexibility, not just cap sheet nonsense. When you think about his potential outcomes, the high-end comp is Jalen Johnson, a guy who can defend, run the floor, and finish strong. The low-end computer Stanley Johnson, still a defensive presence, but limited enough on offense that it caps his impact. Thiero sits somewhere in between right now. Where he ends up depends on the shooting. Plain and simple. This isn't a safe pick. It's a swing, but it's a swing with logic behind it. The Lakers needed length, defense, and energy. They needed someone who could get out in transition, make plays without needing the ball, and cover up some of their gaps on the perimeter. Thiero does that. His shooting limits how he's used, sure, but when you factor in everything else, his size, his instincts, his production on both ends, it's not hard to see why the Lakers went after him. There's upside here, real upside. Whether he hits it is up to him and the development staff and maybe some luck. But as far as second round swings go, this is a pretty compelling one. You don't often get players this athletic, this disruptive on defense, with this kind of statistical footprint outside the first round. The Lakers saw that, and they acted. Now it's on Thiero to show it was the right call. But let's talk about how he fits with LeBron specifically. The row next to LeBron? Now that's a combo worth dissecting. Not because it's perfect, because it's volatile. It could tilt either way depending on development, spacing, and how much chaos they can create together. Starting with defense, Thiero instantly gives LeBron something he hasn't had enough of lately. Young legs that actually move on purpose. At 6'6", 218 pounds, 7-foot wingspan, and a vertical that hits 36.5 inches. He covers ground in a blink. That lets him guard 1 through 4 without falling apart or calling for help every 2 seconds. On paper, his disruption metrics already put him in elite company. He averaged 1.6 steals and 0.7 blocks per game in under 28 minutes. That's not a typo. That's straight up production. When you look at the steal rate, 3.4%, it's not just impressive. It puts him in the 92nd percentile among forwards. Pair that with a block rate of 2.9%, and you're talking about a defender who doesn't just stay in front, he eats possessions. His defensive box plus minus of 4.7 backs it all up. The Lakers ranked 20th in defense last season. That's like being stuck in the mud. Thiero might not yank the whole system forward, but he's absolutely pouring gasoline on the engine. And then there's LeBron, still somehow going at this age, but let's be real, he can't be chasing guards around screens anymore. That's where Thiero steps in, like Vanderbilt did in spurts. Thiero can take on the annoying matchups, make reads, jump passing lanes, and cover the space LeBron can't afford to anymore. That keeps LeBron fresher and lets him play more rover, more quarterback on the back line. It's about lowering LeBron's defense load without lowering the defense itself. Now flip it to offense. This is where things get crunchy. In transition, Thiero is nearly automatic. He shot almost 69% in transition, which is bonkers. Add in 6.5 free throw attempts per game, and you've got a guy who doesn't just run the floor, he forces defenders to panic when he does. That fits with LeBron's whole fast break deal. The Lakers were 6th in pace last year, which means they like to get out and go. And Thiero likes to go too, especially when the ball is bouncing high and the rim is calling his name. But then you hit the spacing wall. Thiero only took about 1.5 threes per game and shot just 25.6% on them. Not exactly a floor spacer. It gets worse when you dive in. He shot just 21.7% on open looks from deep, not contested, not step backs, open, unguarded. Combine that with 0% on off the dribble threes, and suddenly you're looking at a big problem. LeBron needs room to operate. He thrives in drive and kick systems. Put a guy out there who defenders can ignore, and that spacing collapses. And it's not just about threes. In the half court, Thiero's finishing falls off. He hit about 47% against set defenses. That's rough. He still shot 63.6% at the rim overall, but a big chunk of that came in transition. If the game slows down and you're not running, he becomes more limited. LeBron's vision can get him looks, but if Thiero's not knocking them down, defenses will adjust. They'll dare him to shoot. They'll sag off. And suddenly, you're looking at a clogged lane and a frustrated LeBron. And it's now the offseason, and while you're waiting on free agency and trades, now's the perfect time to focus on your health. That's where Factor comes in. Factor is helping me stay on track with ready-to-eat meals that take just 2 minutes. No prep, no cleanup. I've been loving the garlic herb chicken and the chili lime pork chop. Super flavorful, super easy. Instead of wasting time cooking or grabbing fast food, I can stay focused on hoops and content. Factor delivers fresh, not frozen, meals straight to your door. And they actually taste amazing. They've got over 45 options every week, so you'll never get bored. Whether you're bulking, cutting, or just trying to eat better, you can choose from Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, or even vegan meals. And it's not just dinners. They've got breakfasts, lunches, snacks, and desserts too. Everything you need to power through your day without wasting time. Get started at factormeals.com/modernjam50 off and use code ModernJam50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. That's code MODERN, Jam 50 off at factormeals.com/modern. Jam 50 off for 50% off plus free shipping. Thank you to Factor for the sponsor. Still, when you pull back and look at the full advanced stat picture, Thiero's profile is fascinating. He's one of just 2 players, alongside Zion Williamson, who met all the following marks in the same season. Usage rate of at least 25%, true shooting over 60%, steal rate over 3.4, block rate over 2.9, defensive box plus minus over 3.5, and over 40 dunks. That's like a bingo card of elite two-way potential. He checks every box, except for shooting. The on-off impact backs it up. When Thiero was on the floor for Arkansas, the team's net rating was plus 8.2. When he sat, it dropped to minus 3.1. That's an 11-point swing. That kind of data isn't fluke stuff. It speaks to activity, reads, instinct. It mirrors what LeBron brings in terms of gravity. Opponents notice when Thiero is out there, even when he's not scoring. Now let's talk about his development curve, because that's the key to all of this. If he never learns to shoot, it's going to be an uphill battle for him to close games next to LeBron. But if he does, everything changes. The Lakers have a history of working with athletic wings. Talon Horton Tucker came in raw and developed into a respectable shooter. His three-point percentage went from 28.2 to 34.6 in 1 year. That's not impossible for Thiero, especially when you look at his free throw percentage. He hit 75%. That suggests he's got touch. It's not broken. It's just not consistent yet. His ceiling is the fun part. Best case, you're getting a Jalen Johnson type player, a defensive ace who flies in transition, finishes everything, and doesn't need the ball to impact the game. Worst case, you're getting a Stanley Johnson clone. High motor, high defense, but limited scoring. Either way, you're getting defense. The rest is up to how hard he works and how much the staff can unlock. From a contract standpoint, this is all upside. Thiero is on a second-round deal worth about $1.1 million. That's peanuts in NBA money. It also helps the Lakers stay under the cap line. They've got about $4.3 million before hitting the first tax apron. Keeping him cheap means more flexibility elsewhere. And if he hits, you've got a rotation piece on a bargain contract. If not, no big loss. It's a low-risk bet. Right now, his projected role is a 10 to 15 minute per game wing off the bench. He'll bring energy, some chaos on defense, and a few highlight dunks if things go right. But if that shot comes along, he could steal minutes from guys. That's not out of the question. So what's the final verdict? LeBron needs guys who don't need the ball. Guys who defend, run the floor, and don't ruin the spacing completely. Thiero's right on the edge. His defense is good enough to earn minutes now. His offense? Not yet. But the outline is there. The potential is real. His fit with LeBron isn't plug and play. It's build and polish. And there's one more thing. LeBron's not going to be around forever. Even if this is the tail end, building habits and roles around his style still teaches young guys how to play winning basketball. Thiero learning to cut, to rotate, to defend without fouling, and to play off one of the smartest guys to ever touch the court. That has value beyond this season. So yes, there's friction in the fit, but there's also opportunity. If Thiero can stretch the floor even a little, the floodgates open. And until then, he'll earn his minutes with defense, with rebounds, with hustle. That's how you stay on the court next to LeBron. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be relentless. But then let's talk about the fit with Luka. The Thiero and Luka pairing isn't a clean fit. It's a gritty, awkward, puzzle piece meets pliers situation that somehow might just click. You take Luka, who practically sleeps with the ball in his hands and turns every possession into his own private chess match. Then you throw in Thiero, who doesn't care about the board and just wants to jump over it, knock it off the table, and dunk on whoever tried to sit across from him. Defensively, it starts with coverage. Luka's never been known for his lockdown defense. He's smart, sure, but the legs, the motor, the lateral speed, they aren't winning any awards. So what do? You give him a sidekick who does move, like his life depends on it. Thiero's got a 7-foot wingspan and a 36.5-inch vertical. That means he takes up space, actual space, and fills in gaps on the perimeter. He's long, he's quick, and he knows how to use it. You can throw him at guards, wings, even some small ball forward that's guarding 1 through 4 without blinking. He averaged 1.6 steals per game in under 28 minutes. That's already impressive. Then you realize his steal rate was 3.4%. That puts him in the 92nd percentile for forwards, which means it wasn't luck, it wasn't gambling. It was processing speed, reaction, and effort. Toss in 0.7 blocks per game and a block rate of 2.9%, and he's basically a fly swatter that also pickpockets. With a defensive box plus minus of 4.7. He's not just a helper, he's a system on legs. That matters a lot next to Luka, who needs someone to cover up for his limitations. Like Dorian Finney-Smith did in Dallas, Thiero can take on the rougher matchups and let Luka conserve energy. You're not asking Luka to guard top scorers every night. You're asking him to control the offense, and Thiero helps buy him more time and space to do that without being exposed on the other end. Now let's move to offense. Luka's a magician, a conductor, a guy who pulls defenses apart and rearranges them like puzzle pieces. But even the best conductor needs instruments that actually play in tune. Thiero? Well, he's a cymbal crash, loud, explosive, but not always hitting the right note. In transition, he's golden, nearly 69% from the field. That's elite stuff. He runs the lane, finishes through contact, and generates nearly 7 free throws per game. That's a player who's always putting pressure on defenses. It fits Luka's transition vision like a glove. Luka throws it ahead. Thiero catches it mid-air and finishes with authority. Boom, that part's easy. But when the game slows down and the floor shrinks, here's where it gets clunky. Thiero shot just 25.6% from 3 on barely more than 1 attempt per game. That's a problem, a big one. You can't just park him in the corner and hope the defense will care, because they won't. And it gets worse. On unguarded threes, he shot just 21.7%. Defenders will sag so far off him, they might as well buy front row seats to the Luka show. That kind of spacing collapses everything Luka needs to operate. Then there's his finishing in the half court. At the rim, he's strong, 63.6%. But against set defenses, that drops to 47.1%. Luka's whole system is built around drive and kick, forcing rotations and creating open looks. If Thiero can't hit those shots or make plays off the catch, his usefulness on that end drops fast. Still, it's not all bad. The advanced stats are weirdly promising. Thiero is one of only 2 players, alongside Zion Williamson, not exactly a bad name to share space with, who hit this combination in a season. Usage rate over 25%, true shooting over 60%, steal rate over 3.4, block rate over 2.9, defensive box plus minus above 3.5, and more than 40 dunks. That's a Frankenstein of athleticism, efficiency, and disruption. You don't get guys like that in the second round very often. You put him in a small ball lineup with Luka at point forward, and things start to make sense. Luka, Thiero, Austin Reeves, Rui, Luka. That group has shooting, cutting, defense, and enough chaos to keep things interesting. Thiero's cutting becomes a real asset. With his rim finishing, he's dangerous when the D collapses on Luka and forgets about the backdoor lane. He may not shoot from 3, but if you give him a running lane, it's over. That's how he finds value without the ball. Then there's lineup data. Arkansas had a net rating of plus 8.2 with Thiero on the floor. Without him, it dropped to minus 3.1. That's not a coincidence. It shows how his activity impacts winning. Even when he's not scoring, Luka brings that same gravitational pull. The combination could make teams scramble defensively, even if Thiero's not a traditional floor spacer. The real wild card here is development. The Lakers staff has a history with wings who need work. Talon Horton Tucker came in raw and improved his 3-point shot from 28.2% to 34.6%. That's not a small jump. If Thiero can even sniff league average from deep, his role becomes 10 times easier to lock in. His free throw percentage was 75. That's the kind of number that says, hey, the touch isn't broken, it just needs polish. Best case, he turns into a Keldon Johnson type, a guy who can defend multiple positions, score in transition, and hit just enough shots to keep defenders honest. Worst case, he's Stanley Johnson all over again. High motor, good defense, but can't shoot and ends up bouncing around the league. Either way, the Lakers didn't invest a lot. His second round contract is about $1.1 million. For a team managing a $16 million gap to the second apron, that's a dream. You're getting a potentially high impact defender for peanuts. Luka's ideal supporting cast has always been low usage, high IQ, floor spacing wings who can defend their tails off. Thiero is almost there. He checks the defensive boxes. He runs the floor. He doesn't need the ball to be effective. The one thing holding him back is the jumper. If it's not there, defenses sag, lanes shrink, and the Luka offense clogs up. If it is there, even at 34%, he becomes a legitimate two-way weapon. And don't forget the intangible stuff. Thiero plays with an edge. He crashes the boards, he contests shots, he rotates hard. That's the kind of player that fits around stars, because he does the stuff stars don't want to do, that has value, even if it's not always pretty. So what you've got is a wing with crazy defensive tools, transition dominance, and enough red flags on offense to make everyone a little nervous. The Luka fit, it's imperfect, but it's salvageable, and maybe even exciting if the development goes right. You're not banking on him being the third option. You're hoping he becomes the 6th or 7th guy who makes plays without demanding touches. In a league that's increasingly about versatility and energy. Thiero brings both. He's not the cleanest pairing with Luka, but he's not supposed to be. He's a piece that could become something. And with Luka's ability to elevate teammates, that just might be enough. But lastly, we'll talk about the fit with Reeves. Thiero and Reeves. One is a defensive freak with limbs like elastic and a vertical that screams chaos. The other is a polished offensive connector who quietly wrecks defenses with timing, vision, and one of the smoothest floaters in the league. Together, the pairing works because each fills the gaps the other leaves open. Let's start with the defense, where Thiero basically shows up like a lifeguard every time Reeves is about to get thrown into the deep end. Reeves is a solid defender, but he's not a stopper. He's 6'5", wingspan 6'6". That means when he's asked to cover bigger wings or switch on to forwards, he's getting overpowered or shot over. In contrast, Thiero comes in with a 7-foot wingspan and that ridiculous 36.5-inch vertical. The dude's built like a multi-tool. In college, he guarded 1 through 4 without hesitation. 27.5% of his defensive possessions were against guards, 58.3% against forwards, and the rest sprinkled in between. That's versatility. That's plug-and-play cover. Thiero's steal rate was 3.4%, putting him in the 92nd percentile among forward. His block rate, 2.9%. He's not just swiping passes. He's flying in from the weak side, stuffing layups, erasing mistakes. His defensive box plus minus was 4.7, compared to Reeves' 0.9. This is not a small gap. This is a canyon. And it's not because Reeves is bad. It's because Thiero is doing things most wings don't even attempt. Together, this makes life a whole lot easier for Reeves. He can stick to guards, avoid mismatches, and focus on what he actually thrives at, offensive creation. Thiero lets Reeves conserve energy and stay in position, rather than scrambling across screens or getting posted up by guys who outweigh him by 30 pounds. Now on offense, it gets interesting. Reeves is already an elite shooter on catch-and-shoot threes, 39.1% on over 3 attempts per game. That means defenses can't ignore him. They have to chase him around the arc, which opens up cutting lanes and soft spots in the defense. That's exactly where Thiero lives. He only shot 25.6% from 3. That's bad. No need to sugarcoat it. But he shot 63.6% on cuts to the rim. So what do? You use Reeves' gravity to pull defenders out and let Thiero dart in behind them like a heat-seeking missile. Thiero also had an offensive rebounding rate of 7.7%. That's elite for a wing. It means if Reeves gets a clean look and misses, Thiero's crashing the glass for putback. He creates second chances that don't show up in the highlight reels, but swing games over time. The playmaking balance between the two is clear too. Reeves averaged 5.5 assists per game with a rock-solid assist-to-turnover ratio of 2.4. He makes reads, runs pick and rolls, and doesn't force things. Thiero had 1.8 assists and a ratio of just 1.1. He's not a playmaker. He's a play finisher. That matters, because Reeves doesn't need someone to share the ball with. He needs someone who finishes the things he sets up. That's Thiero. Their two-man game potential has real promise. Reeves averaged 1.12 points per possession as a pick-and-roll ball handler. That's efficient. And when Thiero was used as a roll man, he posted 1.18 points per possession, putting him in the 82nd percentile. That pairing could sneak up on defenses. Reeves' patience meets Thiero's explosiveness. You're not asking Thiero to run ISO or pull up from 3. You're asking him to dive, catch, and finish. And he does that at a high level. Zooming out to team impact, both guys affect winning when they're on the floor. With Thiero in the lineup, Arkansas posted a net rating of plus 8.2. Without him, minus 3.1. That's an 11-point swing. Reeves did the same for the Lakers. They were plus 5.3 with him on and minus 1.1 with him off. That's what you want. Players who shift the numbers in the right direction. Even if it's not flashy, their shooting balance helps too. Reeves' true shooting percentage was 62.1. Thiero's was 60.5. That doesn't sound like much, but it tells you that even though Thiero can't shoot threes, he finds ways to be efficient. Whether it's transition dunks, putbacks, or free throws, he's not wasting possessions. And let's talk transition. This is where they're going to roast teams if used right. Reeves shot 58.3% in transition. That's solid. Thiero, try 68.8%. That's borderline elite. He doesn't just run the floor, he explodes into it. And his average sprint time, baseline to baseline, is 4.2 seconds. That's fast. Reeves is no slouch either, clocking in at 4.9 seconds. So now, you've got two guys who can get out and finish. You've got one who handles the ball and finds cutters, and one who flies down the wing and converts. The Lakers run the 6th fastest pace in the league. That matters because both of these guys are transition weapons. And when your team is already playing up-tempo, adding players who can score without needing plays run for them makes everything flow. Now let's talk development, because Thiero's flaws are obvious. He can't shoot yet, but there's a blueprint here. Reeves wasn't always the shooter he is now. He started at 31.7% from deep and worked his way up to 39.1%. That's a real jump. Not a miracle, not a fluke, just development. The Lakers have done this before. Look at Alex Caruso, 32.1% up to 37.8%. Talon Horton-Tucker, 28.2% up to 34.6%. It's a trend. They take athletic wings and make them competent shooters. If Thiero can follow that path, suddenly the spacing issue shrinks. The shooting isn't the only thing either. Thiero's free throw percentage was 75%. That's a sneaky good sign. Bad shooters don't hit 75 from the line. It suggests his mechanics aren't broken. The form just needs tightening. The reps need consistency, and the results will follow. You get him to 33 or 34% from deep, and you've got a rotation player you can trust next to Reeves for real minutes. Role-wise, Reeves is going to play 32 minutes a night. He's a secondary creator, a finisher, and a defensive connector. Thiero, he's in the 12 to 18-minute range right now. Energy minutes, defensive bursts, fast break fuel. But if he hits that next level, if the shot comes around, he could step into a 20-minute role. Thiero and Reeves don't just coexist, they enable each other. Reeves needs spacing and protection. Thiero brings rim pressure, cuts, and defense. Reeves needs outlets who move without the ball. Thiero is constant motion. Reeves can create. Thiero can clean up. It's not a traditional pairing. It's not a perfect fit, but it's complementary in all the ways that matter. There's no magic wand here. Thiero's shooting is still a problem. It limits lineups. It forces adjustments. But everything else, the defense, the athleticism, the effort, the rim finishing, it's real. And next to Reeves, it actually makes sense. You're not hoping for lightning in a bottle. You're building something functional, something sustainable. And that's exactly what you want when you're building a team around stars. Guys who know their job, guys who do it hard, guys who make other players' lives easier. Reeves and Thiero might just be that kind of duo. If you guys enjoyed this, I'll be posting every day. I genuinely appreciate if you could subscribe. Thanks for watching.